This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan,
created solely to make women cry,
Sam Ballard Jr.,
Therapy, lobotomy, Jesus, mix it all in.
Scott Riggleman,
fungus-faced toad sucker, yellow-bellied gutless slug,
and Josh Matthews.
Dude, I'm such a jerk. It's ridiculous.
And here we are again, episode 129 of the RPM Podcast. Well, we're doing something new. We're broadcasting, we're recording this on Monday night at 9:16 p.m. I'm not sure what date it is. What is the date today, Josh?
It's the 18th. It's the day after St. Patrick's Day. Scott's a little hungover.
Well, you know what it is? St. Patrick's Day is one of those days you really don't know what day it is. They start celebrating the thing like March 1st, and they celebrate it until March 30th. I never know exactly what day it is, but all right. So Josh says it's the day after St. Patrick's Day. We're doing it on a Monday. Wow, we're early this week. I'm
surprised you didn't have a ton of toes yesterday, just because of people wrecking cars and stuff.
Well, yesterday was Sunday. I did have a couple cars in the toes in the morning, and then I dedicated my afternoon to the race car. So I was getting calls. To tell you the truth, I just wasn't answering the phone. But here we are, Josh Matthews down at the Matthews Family Studios in Waretown, New Jersey.
Somewhere town.
And my brother's in his little studio up there in Farmingdale, New Jersey, home with Tom Mauser, Farmingdale Flyer. Actually right across the street from where Tommy used to keep his race cars. And my father raced. He was on that street for a little while. Dick Barney lived on that street. There's a guy at the end of the street named Walt Thiel. He had a modern stock for a while. And next to Walt Thiel was Eddie Bloat, which is John Bloat's brother. So we grew up on a racing street. A lot of racers on our street. So it was pretty cool growing up there. And not too far down the road was Ronnie Buck Sr. He had a race shop and built many race engines and everything. So I always call Farmdale. Like Charlotte. It was like Charlotte. Like there was a lot of race cars in that town. There's a lot of old chicken coops people made in the race shops and rented out shops. And there's a lot. And Jeff Gravatt lived in Farmingdale. And whenever you walked into the parts stores in Farmingdale, there were all racers in there. And like I said, Ronnie Buck had a shop down there and he used to sell parts and everything. So and build race cars and engines and transmissions. Plus we had Harry Reid doing his transmission deal. I mean, it was a great town to grow up in, to be involved in racing,
Tim, you got to turn that fan off.
All right.
Or something. I don't know. I keep hearing wind noise. I don't know if it's Tim or if it's a fan. I also saw he has all these little racing flags behind him.
They're waving. Yeah.
It could just be Tim. I don't know. Anyway. It's funny you talk about growing up on a racing street. Rob Longo, who's raced in the factory stock, street stocks, forever. He, where he lives,
he's on Marconi, right?
Yeah. And across the street from him used to be another guy that also ran, and they'd even gotten into a wreck.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah. So Rob was a little annoyed with him, with his neighbor across the street about the wreck. So he left like the crushed up door panel like out on his front lawn forever, just to tease the guy. So I don't know if you ever experienced anything like that on your street.
No, it was all different divisions. I mean, I had street stocks. My dad had modern stocks. Of course, Tommy Mauser had his modified and stuff like that. And the one neighbor at the end of the street, he only raced a couple of years, and he only raced because my dad raced. So he thought it'd be fun if he got a car too.
Oh, it's fun. It's a lot of work.
Who was the other guy that lived across the street from Rob Longo?
I don't remember. Well, I'd have to call him up.
Was it a factory stock or no?
Factory or street stock. It was a fendered car of some sort.
Yeah.
And that was
another thing too. I mean, where I kept my race car was like a little race city because we used to rent race shops off of Stanley Wall, which is Elliot Wall's father, and his grandfather was Lenny Wall. They owned property over by the Cabin Restaurant in Freehold, on the Freehold-Howell border, and they had chicken coops, and they turned them into like shops, 24 by 24 shops with a door and electricity and all that stuff. And there was about 20 shops there. Yeah, there was about 20 or 25 shops there, and I mean, some guys were just like drag race guys or like, hot rod guys, but there was a lot of race cars in there. Sometimes it was good because you can just borrow parts and welders and have people give you a hand, but then sometimes it was aggravating because you're trying down there, try to get something done on your own and you're helping everybody else, but it was fun. It was like a little race city, Farmdale Howell was a great racing town, still is. There's some still race cars in there and stuff,
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. Elliot sold that property, or I mean, the family sold that property.
Yeah, the family sold that property. Elliot lives in Beechwood now and has his own garage down there and everything.
Elliot Wall able to fill the hole.
All right, we're gonna start right off with NASCAR. I mean, the big topic this week is Kyle Busch's 200 wins. Is it as cool as Petty's or is it not as cool as Petty's? I've heard so many different stories, and they all make sense. Yeah, not all Kyle's wins are in the Cup level, but then again, when Richard Petty was winning the races, one lady called into the NASCAR channel, and she was going to the races in the 50s. She said she remembers going to watch Richard Petty win races where the field was filled with regular street cars, like right off the street. Like people in the parking lot just pulled their car out on the racetrack. So he wasn't, not all his races were 500-mile Grand National races. You got to remember back then, they would have midweek shows at tracks such as Wall Stadium, Riverhead, Islip, 50 lappers, and they counted towards his wins. So some people say that even though Kyle Busch won in the Xfinity Series and Truck Series, the competition was tougher than some of the races that Richard Petty won,
Well, certainly more money was invested. I mean, Richard Petty was there when the sport, I don't want to even go with founded, but I mean, was finding itself when it was growing, when it was when it came from stock cars.
The only factory back driver out there, so he was basically the only professional racing against amateurs. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. That's kind of like Scott Riddleman going to an enduro.
Yeah, which I am going to one this March 23rd. I'm racing Greenview. We have a 75 lapper out there, so I'm excited about that.
So I'll say this regarding the 200 wins, it's 200 more than I have. So, yeah.
But then some people say Richard Petty has 206 wins because he has 5 Winston West wins and 1 win in the convertible series that didn't count towards his 200.
Well, Scott, let me ask you. You've won quite a few races in between enduros, factory stocks, and you've raced so many cars. Do you track how many wins do you have, and how do you divide them?
I have 86 wins in race cars, and I also have like 5 or 6 wins in demolition derbies, but I don't lump them into my race car stuff. But yeah, I'm up to 86 wins, and we do keep track of it.
But that's across all divisions.
Yeah, everything I race, enduros, street stocks, factory stocks, the old Arch Truck Series. I think I have 40 wins in them alone.
Oh, but you can separate some of them out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Nancy can. You know what really helps you keep track? One thing I did wrong in my racing career, and I learned about this later in my racing career that I should have been doing. In Kenny Schrader's book, if you ever read Kenny Schrader's book, he's got a great book out. In the back of the book, there's copies of a notebook. Like the pages are copies of a notebook. Mm-hmm. From day one, he had a notebook and kept track of every single race. Nothing fancy. It'll say like Indiana Fairgrounds Speedway, 200 lapper, started 5th, finished 3rd. That's simple. Yeah. Or it'll say Salem Speedway, 150 lapper, Jegs late model, started 3rd, finished 19th, broke transmission. And he just kept track of it. So that's one thing I do. When I read that was only like 5 years ago, so there's no sense of keeping track then. But because I thought I was about done, but here I am still racing. I tell a lot of the young kids, just get a little notebook and write it down. When John Blewett started racing, John Blewett third's son, John Blewett the fourth. He's not really the fourth. He's got a different middle name. But I told him when he started racing, I said, John, just keep track of it. Simple notebook. That's it. Just keep track of it. I tell a lot of kids that, But one thing that's helped me keep a track of my wins is Facebook, like the Facebook memories, because, we're writing, all right, Scott got his 50th win. So now you're just counting from that day forward. So it's easier to keep track. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, I mean, I think your way is neater and makes a bit more sense. One thing I've always kept, and I should have been writing it down at least on them, is I always keep my wristbands.
Yeah, that's good too.
So I mean, you could write each, and then have something from that night, kind of a, I don't know, just a thought. However, people choose to do it.
And some people are like, oh, you can just count your trophies, but that's not true either because a lot of times I gave my trophies away to sponsors. Plus, some of these Enduros I win, they don't even give you a trophy, So,
Yeah, that's true. That's why we like trophy sponsors, because then they will go out and actually just pay for the trophies that.
and just to put this out there, if you're a racetrack and you don't give your feature winner a trophy, you're a cheap ass. You really are. They cost like $12. They literally cost like $12.
Plastic, yeah.
Buy some freaking trophies. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's no big deal. You can even buy them online now. I have sponsored trophies at Bridgeport for the Enduros. For $99, you get 3 beautiful trophies, and they get shipped right to your house. You know what I'm saying? And I would, because it was free shipping if you spent $100. So I started getting 3 trophies or 4 trophies, like 2 to the winner, and I do first, second, third. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I got you.
just piss me off when racetracks don't give you a trophy. They're so freaking cheap, man.
I think I got one for my third place at Mountain at the time in the snow.
I tell you, that's one thing about Wall Stadium and Diane. She gives out beautiful trophies when you win.
Oh,
the only thing I wish she would do different, she gives the winner 2 trophies, and one for the driver, one for the owner,
Right.
which is nice. Don't get me wrong. I'd rather see her give the top 3 trophies.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? Like a podium finish thing, you know what I'm saying?
No.
If
You don't like that? I always liked it because in the Enduros, they would give trophies out to the top 5.
Well,
It kinda
Enduros are
made-
different.
Yeah,
Enduros are different.
it kind of made it nicer in tech because everybody kind of left with somebody and nobody was fighting over it, like trying to rip you down in tech to get your trophy from you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. I just know how hard it is to win a race, and there's a lot of people that race a long time. They get plenty of seconds and thirds, but never quite win. I just
always the bridesmaid. Yeah.
I do the podium finish thing, the top 3. They do it at that New Hampshire track I race at every once in a while on Hudson. They bring the top 3 to victory lane.
They do it in karting a lot. They actually have the
Yeah,
podium.
the karting, they get all the way down to like 5th or something like that.
Yeah,
Well,
I wouldn't go that far, but I think a podium finish top 3 would be a cool thing to
I
get
would
trophy.
I would accept it. And honestly, even if you didn't do it for every division, but for the majority of the lower division guys, whether it be factory stocks or 4-cylinders, the driver is the owner usually.
Right.
Not always, but usually.
Yeah, but what
Well,
I do with my
that's
second
where-
trophy, what I do with
give it
my
to the
second trophy,
sponsor.
is I am the driver and the owner. I give the second trophy to a sponsor. You know what I'm saying? Give one of my sponsors, like Mike's Performance, or I have Atlantic Sprinkler. I ask those guys, you want a trophy for your office or your front window? You know what's weird too? They'll take the trophy at first and they'll have it in their office for like a year, and then they're like, oh, you can come get your trophy. I'm like, no, I gave it to you, but they get sick of looking at it too after a while, and they start falling apart. A lot of people don't know that, but trophies start falling apart. Like once a year, I take all my trophies off the shelf and clean them, and you got to tighten them up. Like they start getting real loose,
Well, they expand with the heat and the cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that big heated garage that Scott has.
Yeah.
But
And
anyway,
air conditioning. Don't forget air conditioning.
Back to Kyle Busch. Everybody knows I'm a big Kyle Busch fan, but I'm not celebrating that he's got as many wins as Richard Petty by any means. But I do agree with Scott. I mean, Richard Petty was racing 4 or 5 times a week, so Kyle Petty, to get that number, has to race 3 times a weekend to stay in pace with how many races that Richard Petty's won, or raced anyway. And the truck and the Busch cars, or whatever, nationwide, whatever you want to call them now, he's the biggest winner in both those divisions too. He's won. He's got every time he races.
Yeah, and that's running on a limited schedule. Imagine if they didn't cut him back to, I think he's only allowed like 10 races in Xfinity, like 5 or 6 in the trucks. Imagine if they didn't cut him back and he was still allowed to run all the races all the time.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, you look at how he races in these other divisions, and sometimes, it looks like the high schooler going to play with the third graders sometimes, because he'll just blow right by them. But between setup and him If you listen to him, and all the drivers say, "Oh yeah, I got a," you can feel a vibration. You have a loose wheel, stuff like that. But he'll tell you which wheel. He could
Yeah,
almost
he's
tell
good.
you which lug it was.
Yeah.
And it's really impressive hearing his feedback, what he's feeling in the car. He is good. And you know what? Fine. People are going to fight over this whole 200. Look, I like Richard Petty, and I like Kyle Busch, and let's see what happens. Kyle still has plenty of time left. Let's see him hit 300, and maybe people will shut up then. I don't know.
And I felt bad for Kyle Busch. He was never bragging that he had 200 wins like Richard Petty. He was just saying, I have 200 wins. You know, he wants to make T-shirts saying 200 wins. You know, and he has 200 wins across the board. It was people like us and the people in the media that made a big deal and compared it to Richard Petty. You know, he never compared it to Richard Petty.
Yeah.
To go back what Josh was just saying, I mean, he blows by the guys in the Busch cars and the trucks, and everybody's like, oh, you know, he's little kids. If you watch that race on Sunday, he blew by everybody. And then he started. He got the penalty.
Yeah, the speeding penalty.
He passed Team Penske for the lead in one corner. He blew by two cars in one corner.
Penske said he thought he had the race won until Kyle Busch blew their doors off.
So, I mean, now that happened. So we're going to say, well, look, he blew their doors off. He's an incredible driver. They're a good team. They have a great setup, and they made it work. And now everybody's going to say, well, he cheated or something. It's collusion. Fake news. But yeah, so I don't know. That's really, I don't have much
But to
more
go
say
back
on
to the original question, at the end of the day, I think you're comparing apples to oranges at the end of the day. His 200 wins.
And two different time periods. I mean, it's so hard to. And Richard Petty said it the best. He's like, listen, if I was in my prime now, I could win. If Kyle Busch was in his prime when I was in my prime, Kyle Busch could have won. You know, it's that simple. It's
just timing in life. Yeah.
There was a great.
And,
go ahead.
And when they changed the point system, I didn't like it at first, with the chase and all that stuff. But then not Kyle Petty, Richard Petty said it the best. He's like, listen, I have 7 Cup championships, but under 5 different point systems. So it's nothing new that they were changing point systems. It's been going on since the beginning of time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just so hard. I mean, and they try to do that in other sports, like who's the best quarterback in football or the best pitcher in baseball. It's just so hard to compare the different times,
Yeah, let's see Johnny Unitas versus, I don't know.
And not only that, O.J. Simpson held the rushing yardage for a season for the longest time. But when he did it, they played 14 games. Now they're playing 16 games. And that's, of course, these guys are getting more yards now. You know what I'm saying? So it's so hard to compare,
Yeah, so I don't know. All I know is there was a really great meme, and it was basically Richard Petty's hat and mustache photoshopped onto Kyle Busch's face. It was really disturbing. So maybe I'll put that up on the page later. Tim's been helping out with posting on our Facebook page.
And the other credible thing about Kyle Busch, he's still young. He's still got plenty of racing ahead of him. I mean, this can get up to 250 before we're done. It can get up to 300 before we're done. I just hope he keeps hinting that he's not going to run the other series much longer. Like he says he wants to get to 100 wins in the Xfinity and then stop. And I think he's like real high up in there, like 80 something or something.
Yeah, but he's got to do that to get the sponsorship for the other guys in that.
Yeah.
Division.
That's why Dale Jr.'s coming back to Darlington. For Hellman's to sponsor the lesser guys. Kyle Busch has got to jump in the car every once in a while.
If you noticed, the last time Kyle drove the Xfinity car that
K9 on it,
had K9 on it. So
yeah. And that's the next thing we want to talk about is this IK9. Yeah, IK9.
Scott's having a stroke at the moment. It's IK9.
IK9.
Yeah,
they're making a big. They're also called something else, right, Josh? Like concept something.
I didn't see that part of it. All I know is it's supposed to be dog training, basically.
They train dogs for the military and for the government, for law enforcement and military. But man, they're coming in here huge. I mean, right away, go right to Joe Gibbs. They're starting their own Cup team through Joe Gibbs. That's going to come out soon with Jeffrey Earnhardt driving. It's going to be the number 81.
Where have we seen that before?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to. They've been sponsoring races. Now they just signed Haley Deegan to 6 or 7 ARCA races. It's kind of similar to the DC Solar deal. You know what I'm saying? And when these companies come in, I get a little nervous, especially if they do government contract and stuff. There's always something weird going on with that stuff. You know what I'm saying? I just hope it doesn't happen again. You know,
Scott, I think it was you that said that this is the next DC Solar, right?
I said it's looking like it.
Yeah,
I'm hoping I'm wrong because they are a great sponsor. I don't want to badmouth them if they are totally legit, but this sponsor scares me. I mean, me and Tim seen this forever. Like people come in and make huge splashes and they're gone within a year. You know what I'm saying? I like that Jeffrey Earnhardt found these guys and brought them into racing. I just wish they would sponsor Jeffrey Earnhardt and that's it. Put all their eggs in one basket. You know what I'm saying?
So you think that they have large ambitions and
yeah, and this money.
That trickles all the way down. Like Scott said, we were kids. There'd be somebody show up with 3 modifieds and a brand new trail, and this guy's the richest guy. He's going to be in racing forever. And then 3 months from now, you're like, whatever happened to that guy that had those 3 cars and everything? You know, they come.
People just don't understand. In racing, it never stops. The money never stops. Some people are like, well, all right, well, modified's 20 grand. I'll buy 3 of them. That's 60 grand. All right, I need a truck and trailer. All right, that's another 50 grand. All right, I can afford that. But then they just don't. It just never stops. You know, every time you bring the race car to the track, it goes on, you know, then you're 2 years into it and you think, well, I got all this equipment, but I'm still spending a ton of money. It just never stops. And that's where the people get themselves in trouble, you know?
And not just the money, the time, the investment. I mean, going to each one, especially if you're the one driving. I mean, you have to get there to every track.
And another thing that scares me too. I mean, we've watched huge companies pull out of NASCAR, Target, Lowe's, you know, the list goes on and on. You think a guy training dogs for the military has that type of money that Lowe's and them have? You know what I'm saying?
No, but well, maybe not. Maybe they're starting with a big splash, but then they're going to end up being one of these Starcom underfunded teams. You know, that's just left.
Well, they're saying by next year they want to have a full-time Cup team with Jeffrey Earnhardt racing and with Joe Gibbs. You know, basically a satellite team for Joe Gibbs. You know, we'll see. We'll see.
That sounds like Eric Brenning saying he'll be on the show next week.
Yeah, but I mean, it is called something else, like something Concepts Motorsports or something like that. So maybe this the K9 thing is one part of their business, you know, under a big umbrella of something else. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
it might be the thing they're promoting now.
You said it was 6 or 7 races for Haley Deegan.
Yeah.
Okay.
New York.
So I mean, so it's not a full-time deal. It's kind of like the interstate on Kyle's car, where it's all right. Here's a couple of races. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe
and I did notice some of the races, even with Joe Gibbs, with Kyle Busch, that they're not going to be the main sponsor every time. They're going to be the associate sponsor. So it's something to keep an eye on. It's definitely something to keep an eye on and see if they fizzle out or if they keep going, or if they're in it for the long haul. You know.
Well, I mean, I hope that they stay because any money coming into the sport.
Yeah. Any new sponsor is great. You know, it's great when new people come in.
Especially,
and I also like to see other sponsors other than automotive stuff too. That's always nice.
It's beer and automotive stuff.
Yeah,
is what you tend to have,
and basically even at the local level, it's either a bar sponsoring you or a junkyard or a towing company. You know what I'm saying, or a trucking company. Trucking companies are another big sponsors in local short track racing. You know?
Well, the way you got to look at it, everybody's got to eat, and everybody's got a car.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I heard one guy. I had, like I said, I have people in my tow truck all the time. You know, people break down. I got to drive them home or whatever. And this one guy was trying to tell me, this is very far-fetched and it's never something I ever thought of. I want to see what you guys think about it. He told me the decline in NASCAR is because of Uber and Lyft, that nobody wants to drive their own car anymore. No one cares about driving anymore. They just want to call and get an Uber and get a Lyft, and that's why NASCAR is declining. No one cares about cars anymore.
They don't care about what race on Sunday, sell on Monday type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You know, people aren't car enthusiasts anymore. They just use them for transportation.
I don't care what you say. These cars don't look like the cars you buy on.
Right.
And there's no part of that car that they race on Sunday.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's been a problem for a while, but at the same time...
And you're not going to fix it now. I mean...
No, but I mean, if you talk about Richard Petty running the Superbird or whatever, because that was a factory car.
Well, even the cars like you guys race factory stocks, they were at one time Cup cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then they got away from that, and it wasn't up to the factories or the manufacturers anymore.
I think wasn't the Lumina the first quote unquote fake car.
Yeah,
I think just the roof of the deck lid or something.
Right.
Yeah. So I think just with what NASCAR's become, and if you want to have any chance of keeping the cars on a level playing field, you can't let the manufacturers dictate like they used to because it didn't used to be such a prime thing. It was like, oh well, if we have the fastest car, maybe we'll get some more people to buy it, and they would invest some money into that. Now, the stakes are so much higher.
I honestly think the decline in attendance is solely because of the technology. Nobody wants to go there. I think everybody still follows it. They just don't go to the track and follow it. They follow it on their phone, on TV, on the radio, you know?
Yeah, well, I mean, there are races. I mean, and I've said it before. Dover can be a boring race, and you want to know who won, but you don't want to sit there for 4 or 5 hours.
I mean, there's times too. I know qualifying's on. I'm like, I'll just check when it's over and see the results. I'm to the point now. A lot of times, I don't even read the articles anymore. I just click on the results, and I've been involved in racing so long. I can look at the results and kind of picture what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
I got a better one for you. If I'm at like a tour race or something or anywhere, it doesn't matter. If my phone starts going beep 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 beep, like I know Kyle Busch wrecked because everybody's texting me telling me that Kyle Busch sucked. I don't even have to open up my phone. I'll be like, "Well, Kyle Busch must have wrecked." So, that's part of technology. It's just it goes quick.
I think technology is part of it, but I don't think that that Uber and Lyft directly, because I think that generally the people that are into those are not usually as into
involved in
cars.
racing. They're not in the cars anymore.
What Scott said, the guy said, is in a roundabout way, like what I said. People just aren't in the cars, period, anymore.
Well, the cars are so much plastic now, and then all you do is get a new Hellcat that has absurd horsepower that you can't use.
Like, how like people like Barrett Jackson's so big right now because kids that were in high school in 1968 or be like, one day I'm going to own a 1968 Camaro. Nobody that's in high school right now in 2019 in 30 years is going to be like, damn, I wish I still had my 2019 Camry. Yeah, it's just we're not that car culture anymore.
No, well, the cars haven't become that at this point. Like what cars stand out outside of maybe your weird high end manufacturers like a Bentley or something.
I mean.
Or a Tesla now, because that's the one brand that stands out and has stuff that's unique. Otherwise, all the other brands are putting out similar competitive things. I mean, fine, I'm a Chevy guy, but you compare a 1500 Chevy pickup to a F-150 pickup. Fine, you can argue the aluminum versus the steel. Okay, there's a few differences, but they're going to last about the same amount of time. They're going to drive about the same. You're still going to do between 75 and 80 on the Parkway. It's not going to change.
They're spec'd out the same way.
Yeah.
They all hold the same weight. They all have to work.
A whole other thing, you watch Barrett Jackson, and they'll be like, this Barracuda is one of four because one guy checked the box off for a rear cigarette lighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Today you just go to the car dealership and say, I want the blue one because they're all the same.
Whatever's on the lot, you just grab.
Yeah, you don't have to do that kind of stuff anymore.
So
Josh, you just said you're a Chevy guy. One rumor me and Nancy heard is that they're coming back out with the K5 Blazer.
Oh, geez.
Like the old school Blazer.
Yeah. Well, I
like
those
Blazers. Nancy had one when she was a kid. I mean, a lot of my friends had them. They ride a little rough, but they're pretty cool. But they're supposed to be coming back out with a K5 Blazer, which would be cool. And another thing I heard with Jeep's supposed to be coming out, or it might even be out already. Jeep's supposed to come out. Remember, Jeep made like the trucks that had the little truck back end on it. They're supposed to be coming back out with them too.
They keep saying they're going to make the El Caminos again, which they still make in Australia up to this day. Yeah, they're called Brutes or something.
Does this mean
Ute?
Go ahead, Tim.
Google Chevrolet Ute.
Ute. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes. I was just going to ask if they're bringing the K5 Blazer back, is Ford going to bring the Bronco back?
It always seems that way. When one does one, the other doesn't.
Actually, I think they're going to try to. Well, honestly, and I don't want to go down the car show road, but there was that unveiling of the new Blazer, Trailblazer, whatever it was, probably a month or two ago. That was an ugly Trailblazer. I don't know what they did. I'd rather go back to that '95 Chevy.
Did you see that one going around Facebook? I guess Chevrolet was testing the brand new Corvette, like a mid-engine
It
Corvette.
broke down, right?
And it broke down. It was on the back of the record with a cover over it.
Yeah, they covered it so nobody can see it.
Oops.
All right, moving on in our little show here. Darrell Waltrip, he was calling the race, and he kept saying that the guy had tire smoke.
No. He said he thought that Austin Dillon's engine went because Austin Dillon like pulled down and was going slow, and it was because he had a right rear go down. And Waltrip's like, well, these sustained RPMs, all the way to turn 3 here, it's really hard on an engine. And then they showed the other angle, and Jeff Gordon's like, actually, I think he blew a tire. That's not an engine. So
I saw that. I saw that. And I felt bad because I stuck on the last podcast. I stuck up for Darrell Waltrip, and he was still relevant up there in the booth, and here he is, the tire smoking. He thinks it blows up. I'm like, damn, that didn't help my cause any.
Then on one of the restarts, Ricky Stenhouse lost it in front of the pack and caused another wreck.
He was probably fourth, fifth at the time, and it just got loose. I mean, I will say the restarts, or the initial start and the restarts were exciting because you're like 7 wide, and it's an absolute cluster of cars. And they thin out fairly quickly, but it does look cool for the first lap or two. But Stenhouse just got loose, and I mean he forced Truex up high, who made contact with Larson or whatever, ripped off part of the right rear fender. It just guys were sliding and dodging him. It's amazing that 10 cars weren't collected in that right on that restart, but they got around him. It was interesting. But other than
when is his contract up?
I don't know,
Never.
man. I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't lose that ride, but I mean, he did pull off a couple wins last year on the super speedways, and they're saying it's not him. They're saying it's the cars, and he's just pushing them too hard to try to get the most out of them. I think that's something that's even his job.
All that with all the bad every week, he's
every week. I don't know, and they keep sponsors on that car. He's got some cool sponsors too. He's got some big name sponsors. I don't know
because he gets talked about. that whole
Yeah, you might be right. Sometimes bad news is good news. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he does have those 2 Xfinity championships, but how long can you live off that? But I think what really saved him is last year he did win on the big tracks a couple of times on the super speedways and the restrictor plate races. But the whole Roush deal is sinking, man. They're falling behind. There's no doubt about it. And I hate to say it, but so is Richard Childress. They're starting to fall behind. And then we remember this. We've seen guys like Bud Moore fall behind and leave the sport. We've seen guys like Junior Johnson fall behind and leave the sport. Even Robert Yates, there at the end, he was falling behind too and left the sport.
So what? It's Penske and Gibbs.
I don't think Richard Childress is going to wear.
Well, Hendrick. He can. He's been in a little bit of slump, but I'm sure he can. But yeah, you're right. It's basically Hendrick, Gibbs, and Penske. Oh no, you got Stuart Haas. Don't forget Stuart Haas.
As far as Childress goes, he's got his grandkids in there, which is fine. I'm 100%. If he wants his grandkids in those cars, that's fine. But I don't think they're 100% talented enough. They need the third car with a really good experienced driver in it to keep the feedback up and let the other 2 kids benefit from that. And they're not
kind of a mentor.
Yeah, or just to keep
somebody. On Jack Roush's defense, he tried to get Matt Kenseth back, and he did have him back for half the year, and he did want to sign Matt Kenseth to play that role at Roush, and Matt Kenseth didn't want to do it, and that's why they hired Ryan Newman.
They're finding these guys that made their money that don't want to do it. They don't want to do it anymore. They want to go in the TV booth and do it. But they going back to what Josh said, like with Kyle Busch, he knows, and he's not the only one, but he knows the car needs another turn in the left rear or take some wedge out of the right side or whatever you want to do. Well, I don't think those kids they don't know that. That's how they're falling behind.
I need a taller hat.
Yeah, they're worried about.
But talking about 5 wide, what did you guys think about the start of the race when they brought the cars down in a group of 5 wide to salute the fans? I thought that was pretty cool.
I didn't see that part, but that sounds really nice.
Yeah, it was cool. Something different. Something else they're bringing around.
TQs would do the 4 wide.
Yeah, TQs, the sprint cars do it. Dirt late models do it. It looked really cool when they went 5 wide, coming around the track to salute the fans. I thought that was neat. I'd like to see them do that every week. It was pretty cool.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I might have been sleeping. Was it? I had a long trip. We'll get to that. Was the Ferris wheel there?
I didn't see it.
I did not see it. I was looking too.
Maybe it broke down, or they only had a half a year contract or a beginning of the year contract, and then
the Ferris wheel sponsor.
That was starting. People were starting to notice, and not just us, but like on Facebook and stuff.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Ferris wheel to be sponsored by whoever, you know.
If they could put a big spinning advertisement on that, don't think they wouldn't. Real quick, the Xfinity Series, Cole Custer got the win over Kyle Busch. Kyle, what was it, 35 to go? They radioed him and said, you got 35 to go, you can still do this. And Kyle radioed back, are you effing kidding me? So, or something along those lines. But yeah, so he didn't have the best day there.
I didn't see that race. What happened?
His bad day is still a second place finish.
Yeah, was the car not good, or what happened?
I just think that Cole Custer was faster. He was really fast.
I forget. I missed what had happened there. I was out most of the weekend. So third was Christopher Bell, fourth Tyler Reddick, and fifth Chase Briscoe. Overall, I didn't hear anything spectacular about the Xfinity race. Probably.
Well, I think Cole Custer was the first true Xfinity driver to win this year. That was the other topic that was pretty big.
What? Because Kyle's been stealing them all.
Yeah, Kyle's been stealing them all.
Yeah.
Well, how was the crowd there on Saturday and Sunday?
Sunday, not bad.
Not
terrible, Saturday, it was
but...
light.
Yeah,
it wasn't sold out. There was some empty grandstands, but it was a decent crowd. Saturday was light though.
Moving along, I'm going to do the Formula One stuff real quick, and then we'll move on to our local stuff because we have plenty going on there. So Formula One, Australian Grand Prix. Spoiler alert: Bottas gets the win over Hamilton. He had like a 6-second lead or something over Hamilton or more. Now, Formula One's doing an extra or a bonus point for the fastest lap, and Bottas, even on used tires, managed to edge out Vettel and Hamilton for the fastest lap. So he gets all the points for the win, plus a bonus point for the fastest lap. And I think that's kind of a cool thing to reward, and encourage racing to continue. Instead of laying back. In the same way, I think that it's good that getting stage points can give you a reward for running well in the beginning, earlier on in the race, even if you have the misfortune of getting taken out later. You get something for your effort. And I think the fastest lap kind of encourages guys to push the cars a little bit and try to get something else and you can be rewarded for it. Now on the start, Daniel Ricciardo, you know how Formula One starts are. They go all over the place. They're dodging and hopefully not running into anything. Ricciardo just barely went onto the grass a little bit. He got ran down to the grass, and we've talked about it before. The little bit of just the height difference. It actually ripped his entire front wing right off the car. And he ends up locking up the brakes and skidding through the first turn, and it was a crap show. And we've talked about with NASCAR, they should just pave everything just so these cars don't dig in, don't rip the front ends off, don't destroy them. And we've never really seen it in Formula One like this before. And here it is, plain as day. I mean, he was barely on the grass, and it just dug in and ripped the whole front wing off. It was actually, I've never seen that happen before in Formula One. McLaren, still trying to recover from being McLaren. They had an engine overheating failure with Carlos Sainz, and I just see nothing but problems. Roman Grosjean for Haas, they had problems in the pits. I don't know if it was a pit gun. It looked like it was something relating to the left front suspension or the wheel going on. They, what should have been a 2-second stop ended up being like 11 or 12. They were just fighting, trying to get this left front wheel on. And a few laps later.
Is that American Haas team getting better, Josh?
Well, I'm going to get to that in a second with his teammate, because what happened to Grosjean was a few laps later, the suspension failed and the wheel basically started to just come off the car. And they had a similar issue last year at the same race with both cars. Now, Magnussen, the other Haas driver, ended up with a sixth place finish, which is still pretty respectable. And
Okay.
so I don't know. I'm sure they're learning quite a bit. I don't think they're uh, outside of a fluke. I don't see them winning anytime in the near future, but they are improving and they're finding things out and making. They're still a strong team. And if you think about it in Formula One, finishing sixth, I mean that's like a win for
That's good.
them.
Yeah.
And compared to other more experienced teams that they're beating out,
Was that their best finish?
their best finish was actually their fifth, I believe. They might have actually had a fourth. But I know their very first Formula One race they finished fifth, which was it's unheard of. Something else that was really cool that I haven't seen in Formula One in quite a while: the little vortexes coming off the rear spoilers.
Yeah, like the vapor trail.
Yeah, yeah. I actually saw that coming off of Vettel's car.
It's funny you say that, man. Super modifieds used to do that at Flemington. You could literally see the air going across
That's awesome.
coming off it.
That's
Yeah.
so cool to me to see that happen.
Especially if it was like a damp, dewy night, you could really see it.
Oh yeah,
good,
because
you know?
that water will just go back to condense
Yeah.
and everything. Yeah, I was just really excited to see that. It wasn't much. It wasn't as extreme as it used to be back in the '90s or whatever when we would see it. But it was really cool to see that kind of back. Another weird problem, and Scott, this is regarding tear-offs. And you, with some more dirt experience, can maybe comment on this. Kimi Räikkönen, they told him when he came to the pit, like, this is going to be a slightly longer stop. We need to look at something on the rear of the car. And they found a tear-off blocking a brake duct on the rear. And with these cars, obviously incredibly sensitive, so they probably had a temperature sensor that was reading higher than normal or whatever, so we need to look at this. Turns out
And there you go, one of those weird things, a 10-cent tear off can ruin $1 million race car. You know?
It's funny that you say the thing about the tear off, not to get off what Josh was talking about. The other day, I went with my mom for a ride somewhere, and we were out by East Winter Speedway. I'm like, she wanted to see where the track was, so I showed her. And I swear to God, there was some guy who was like raking his leaves in his backyard. I wonder if he's ever gotten a tear off, from all the tear off in the corners there. And we were going down, and down there's like a gully, like where they looked like was still untouched from like the racetrack back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I could have swore I saw a tear off down there, but
You
it could
probably did, man. Even when I go to Grandview and all these local tracks, there's tear offs everywhere, man. They're just everywhere. But it's kind of weird that you see. I just noticed in the Indy 500 maybe a year or two ago they started using tear offs. I think it's something new them using tear offs in the open wheel cars. I never really remember seeing them using tear offs.
I have for a while.
How do they even stay on? It'll blow off.
I know at that speed, I can't believe they even stay on, man.
They get the high grade ones, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, all I was going to say was I can't believe it actually doesn't happen more often. Especially with IndyCar getting sucked into those air ducts on the side pods and everything, or even over the top. I mean, the way these things just flutter around. I mean, I can't believe they're not hot dog wrappers getting sucked in there. But it was Kimi's own tear off that blocked his brake duct. So they actually had to give him a warning over the radio, like, just be more. You need to be more careful about your tear offs. Like, the guy's going 200 miles an hour, trying to be able to see a little bit better. You're going to tell to be more careful about disposing.
Yeah, the split second to tear it off and put his hand back on the wheel. I'm surprised they don't use something like the electronic roll off ones, because they do make one kind of like the old film in the camera.
Yeah,
you know?
just swipes across. Yeah, I don't. I just. I don't know. How are you going to yell at somebody? Bottas had a good response after getting that win, kind of as a comeback for him, is what it felt like. He said, "To whom it may concern, F you," over the radio, which was So I mean, there were definitely some highlights. There was some good radio conversation there. I wish they would do something like the radioactive that NASCAR does or Fox puts out. But yeah, so that's really all I got on Formula One. Looking forward to this season. Let's see how it turns out. I'm going to pull for Haas because, America. that said, we're going to move on to our local stuff. The modifieds were down in Myrtle Beach, and someone very important and close to us was there. Brian O'Shea.
Paul Hartwig. Paul Hartwig.
yeah, Paul Hartwig.
Yeah,
And I think Tim
there
was
was actually
there.
a lot of people from Wall Stadium. You know,
Yeah.
Brian O'Shea, I guess he hooked up with Timmy Solomito. He's gone some tour races with Timmy Solomito. I know he actually helps Andrew Krause as well on the modified tour, but Andrew wasn't racing Myrtle Beach. I seen Timmy went down there. Not Tim. Brian O'Shea went down there with Timmy Solomito. Paul Hartwick was down there. He was helping Tommy Catalano. Paul actually got some TV time because Tommy Catalano have a inner tie rod break on the left front, and they showed Paul on pit road changing it. That was classic. I mean, the Barneys, they had Nick Shaw helping them. He's from Wall Stadium. And there's a lot of people down there from Wall Stadium, including
Eric
my brother
Mariello.
Tim. Yeah, Eric Mariello was down there. Sean Ingraham was down there.
They were watching him. Gary McGuigan was there.
Yeah, Gary McGuigan's a great race chaser, which me and Tim want to get in the show. And he goes to a lot of races. He's just the super fan race chaser, and he can probably tell some great stories. He's been to many racetracks, and he can tell us from the fans' point of view where we're more competitors, and we look at things from the competitor's point of view where he can tell us from the fans' point of view. So it'd be great to get Gary on the show.
So let's talk about the race a little bit. I mean, how many laps was this race?
150 laps.
So now that's a good distance. So Tim,
Yeah,
what did you have to eat?
Race. I didn't believe it or not. I didn't eat anything there. From the track itself. We'll go back to
Tim, that's supposed to be your job. You're supposed to go get some of the track food.
Well, maybe RPM should give me a buffet card and I can buy food on it.
We don't have the budget for that.
To go before we get into the race, Scott was talking about the place was pretty packed. The parking lot was completely full. The cops were actually on the corner directing traffic because the parking lot was full. And the track that inside the one main grandstand was full. Then the grandstand there is really long, so it wasn't packed to capacity. But if you put everybody together, I bet you it was 3/4 full. So that was good. And then my weekend started out. I left at 4:30 in the morning on Friday. Got to the hotel by 11:30. Was up at 4:30 to get back to the track.
Jeez.
And then I was home after the race. Got home the next day at 10 o'clock in the morning.
That's the only bad thing about NASCAR with the modified tour race. They can really drag a day out, man. They'll make you come to the track at 7 o'clock in the morning. You don't race till 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
The spotters meeting was 8:15.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. They have spotters meeting, crew chief meetings, drivers meetings. Yeah, it's just.
Well, which is okay. I've gone to many races that were the spot that weren't a NASCAR race, and you walk up to an official and you ask them a question. They're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm all about the meetings. Going back to the race, it was a 150 lap race, and it was a tire race like they always are there. And
I tell you what, though, it was. I thought the early laps were going to be super, super boring because people would be 3/4 throttle saving tires, but it was pretty racy. They were racing in the beginning and then in the middle of the race, but it was a tire deal.
Yeah, it was like Scott said, it was good in the beginning, and then once the pit strategy starts, that's when it starts to get good for the fans because some guys come in, some guys don't, and I think the first yell, I think everybody came in, and then after that, they started breaking up into their little groups, and the group that we were hoping for like a real late caution, like with 10 or 15 laps to go, and we still had a tire left. And the rule of thumb is one of those races, after the race is over, if you got a tire left, you probably did win the race. And we were on the same tire game as Matt Hirschman and Justin Bonsignore. And as everybody knows, Matt Hirschman usually wins those tire races, and Justin Bonsignore was last year's champion. So we were on their schedule, and it just didn't work out for us. We didn't get our late caution like we wanted.
But to Doug Kobe's credit, Doug Kobe qualified on the pole, and he had to go to last place and start dead last on the field because they did like an autograph session with the race cars or something like that. And when they brought the cars back around, they took them through the dirt and stuff. And he got a flat tire going through where NASCAR's holding to go because he was the first car through there. And he got a flat tire, and they even showed it to him. And they said, you can change the tire, but you're starting last. And he still won the race. So good for him.
Yeah,
wow.
And like you, Scott, you always ask all the technical questions. One of the things, he changed shock companies over the winter. He left Fox Shocks and went to, I believe, JRI Shocks.
Yeah,
So
JRI is now owned by Ray Evernham, so
Now
he was hooked up. He was definitely the fastest car on the track, and he won by quite a big margin too. It was a good race, man. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those days. I worked in the morning. I came home, worked on the race car. I said I'll work on the race car at 5:00. I'll go in the house. I'll set my computer up because the race was coming on at 5:30. I think it came on like 10 to 6. But it was cool because the Xfinity race was on too. So I was watching the Xfinity race on the TV and the modified race on my computer. I was like racing over. But you know what's weird about that? You go from watching two things, and they got over like at the same time. Like Doug Coby wins. I look at the Xfinity race. There's 10 laps to go, so I went from watching two things to watching nothing. You know, because they were both over at like the same time. You know, but yeah, I think Myrtle Beach is a great place. They did have a big late model race there too. So I was kind of curious, Tim. Did you notice if it was a late model crowd or if it was a modified crowd?
you know, it's funny that you say that because some people did leave after the late model race.
Right.
More than I thought would leave. So yeah, there were definitely people there for that late model race.
Late models are huge in the South.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny. There were still after the late model race had started, there were still people coming in. So it was kind of like the late model people were leaving, and
The modified people were
coming in. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. But I'm happy
because they were still racing after the modified race, even though Fans Choice TV only showed the modified race. They did show after the modified race a lot of people leaving right after the modified race.
Yeah,
so they didn't like the Chargers and stuff like that. You know.
Yeah, to go back to the race. I mean, Jimmy Blewett did really well. You know, New Jersey guy.
Jimmy Blewett had a shot at winning.
He probably would have won that race if the alternator wire fell off.
Yeah, and Jimmy said he only had like 25% throttle down the straightaway because of
Hot Pockets was standing right next to me in a spotter stand, and I asked him what's going on with Jimmy's car, and Jimmy thought it was running out of fuel or it was getting starved for fuel,
right?
Because it was acting like it had no gas. Every time he hit the pedal, it would bog out on him, and come to find out the battery was going dead. So he probably would have. He never would have, could have, should have. But
he was one of the cars on the charge at the end. He came from like 10th and he blew right by it and got up to second. And when his motor started breaking up because of the battery issue he was having, he did fall back to third, but he was still able to finish third. That was a great run for him. He finished second there last year in his own car.
Yeah, and then we'll get to Caraway.
Really good there.
We'll get to Caraway after this, but
Blake Tim, you think Jimmy might run good at Myrtle Beach? Could you compare Myrtle Beach to like a Flemington Speedway where Jimmy has experience?
Yeah, it's got fences on both sides, or walls on both sides. From what I was told, they just paved that a couple years ago.
What?
So that
Myrtle Beach?
Oh no, I thought you meant South Boston next race.
No, Myrtle Beach.
Here he raced. I thought you said what I think how he would do at the next race. Isn't that what you asked me?
No. I just said, do you think he runs good at Myrtle Beach?
I think he runs good at Myrtle Beach because of the dirt car experience. You're always chasing the grip. You got to move around. I think it's got more to do with his dirt car skills than it does.
Okay.
That I'm sorry, I thought you meant the other race, but
no, I just thought maybe Myrtle Beach was similar to Flemington. They kind of look the same.
No. South Boston is more like Flemington than.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's got fences on both sides, walls, inside wall and outside wall. But going back to
Myrtle Beach, they said the last time Myrtle Beach was paved was 1991.
Yeah. So I think Jimmy can find the grip. That's why he does so well there. Blake Barney didn't have a very spectacular day.
He finished 13th though. That's not too bad.
I was just gonna say he stayed out of the way. He spun out at one particular time, or got spun out. I really don't know for sure. I saw Nick Shaw jumping around like a jumping bean up there at the spotter stand stuff. I kind of think something happened, but I don't know. I didn't see it. And Calvin Carroll, who is from New Jersey, I don't know where he finished, but he stayed out of all the wrecks as far as I know. They did black flag him for no communication with his spotter, but they figured that out after a couple laps and he went back out. Because NASCAR does monitor you to see if you have communication with your car.
Yeah, it becomes a safety issue. You know, they definitely should have communication with your spotter on a big race like that.
I agree. No, I'm kind of amazed, and we see this at every level in racing. No matter how much you go over a car, you still have these weird kind of dumb problems. Like you talk about the battery going dead or a wire going bad. Scott, you had your ignition wire fall off of
I
your.
mean, it cost me a championship basically in the end.
Yeah, I just and I know Scott, you're in the shop like every night practically, working and going over the cars, and you have good equipment. You take care of it, and I know, and I've seen Jimmy's shop before, like so I know that he's good about his equipment as well. And then just to see like a kind of a dumb little problem like that, give you such
I
a
mean, you just mentioned in Formula One. It could be something as simple as a tear off going
yeah
into your
yeah
brake duct. You just don't know. There's so many variables in a race. And that's what bothered me at the beginning of the year last year when Jimmy was winning all the modified races. Some of the modified guys were like, well, I ain't going there. I'll never be able to beat Jimmy. Listen, you don't have to beat Jimmy. There's going to be nights when something breaks on Jimmy's car, and you're going to be there to capitalize on. I'm the same way in the factory stocks. That division's getting tougher and tougher and tougher.
Mhm.
It's getting harder and harder to win. But sooner or later, luck's going to be on your side, or you're going to have the right start, and you're going to win. You got to go to the races and race them. You just never know what's going to happen.
You got to be in it to win it. Is really
you got to be
what
in it to
comes
win
down
it, man.
So yeah, I agree. And what was it? You were talking about the trophies earlier. I have one awesome, huge trophy upstairs, and it's for finishing fourth in points because Diane is
You were
awesome,
there.
and
Yeah.
and they give out awesome trophies. And on top of that, I was there for every single race, and I was able to rack up some points and have it end up somewhere decent in the points championship just because I was there every week. So yeah,
I mean, that was, talking about points, that's another good thing why Jimmy finished third. They're basically they're not sure if they're going to do the full season yet. They're basically going to race the first few races and see where they're at. I mean, Jimmy does it every year. If he's in the top 5 in points or top 3 in points in the tour, he keeps running. If he's not, then he bails on the tour and goes to race the Wall Stadium and try to win the championship. So he's off to a good start. He finished third. He's going to South Boston. My brother's saying it's similar to Flemington. Jimmy ran very good at Flemington back in the day, as well as his brother John. Maybe if Jimmy goes South Boston, get a good finish and keeps up in points, he'll keep going. You know what I'm saying?
it's anything's possible.
I'm looking forward to South Boston. I've been there twice. Once with John. John had that race all but one, and he came in for the final pit stop, and they only got 3 lugs on the wheel.
That's all you need.
Yeah, well, not according to NASCAR. So come back in, and he lost that one. And I was there with Eric Goodale a couple years ago. We were actually leading the Southern Modified Tour points when we left there that day, but the next race was conflicting with the Northern Tour. And I begged and pleaded. We could have flown. It could have been done. We could have sent a car down there and had a car waiting there. We could have flew and made it back in time, but they didn't want to go for that. So,
correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but I think South Boston is the last track that Mario Fiore's number 44 won a race with Jerry Marquis.
Yeah, Jerry Marquis did. They did win the tour race here. Yeah, if that was his last win, I don't know, but
yeah, I think that was the last time Team 44 won with Mario as a car owner.
And supposedly they have the best fried bologna sandwiches there.
Well, you said Myrtle Beach had the best fried bologna sandwiches.
No,
and, yeah, who didn't get food?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you splurge the $5 for a bologna burger at South
Now,
Boston?
you give it to me tomorrow when you pick me up to go to Pocono.
I'll pay you $5 to ride a tow truck all day with me so you can buy a bologna burger.
Oh my god!
Actually, the reason why I did not buy a bologna burger there is Hollywood was there, and the Bonsignor that he spots for was there, so he had his little satchel of tuna fish sandwiches. So I had plenty.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. We talked about that on.
I had plenty of those, and thank God for everybody that bought me up drinks. And
did you ever figure out why the tuna fish sandwiches are so good?
It's a mystery. I don't know.
It's a special sauce.
I wonder if it's because of the mayonnaise she uses, or she puts relish in it, or celery.
Like Hollywood told us, he knows the recipe and can't.
I can't tell.
Trade
and they're that. All right, well, speaking of food, one of our topics last week and the week before was where people stop and go before and after the races, and we did have a good response on that this week on Tim's Facebook page. A lot of people were talking about it. You want to update us on that, Tim?
Yeah, well, the first one was the one that you sent me. Was Bobby Brown said he went to Douglas also.
Yeah, he responded.
Uh,
And talking about my diet thing, Nick Kilmer, who's just started racing factory stocks, and he listens to the show every week. He's going to be racing factory stocks more this year. He races the 52 yellow factory stock at Wall Stadium. He sent me a picture of him drinking a Gatorade Zero, and he said he bought it because we were talking about it on the show. So
Did he have an opinion?
Gatorade was money.
What's that?
Did he have an opinion on it? Did he think it was good or?
No, I never got back to him, but I'm sure he's also a bariatric patient like me. He had the stomach surgery too, so I'm sure he was looking for a sugar-free option too.
I kind of want to try it because I go through so much Gatorade.
I tell you what, I haven't had regular Gatorade in a long time, and like I said, I don't take as much sugar as I used to. It tastes just like Gatorade to me. It really does.
I'll try it if it means less sugar and all that. I mean, I probably need a little bit with as much as I'm sweating out, but at the same time, if I can go with a lower sugar option.
But you know what the funny thing is? Like here I am preaching that it's got no sugar in it. I bet if you talk to somebody else, they'd be like, "Oh, well, it's got aspartame in it, and that's worse than sugar." Like you can never win. You can never win.
No.
I've drinking water, and someone told me I shouldn't drink Poland Spring water because it's in a plastic bottle.
Oh.
It's just like it just never ends. It just never ends.
Well, whatever I'm doing wrong is wrong, and whatever you're doing wrong is right because you're like 300 pounds lighter than I am. So
cut out sugar.
Oh, jeez.
I don't put sugar on it. All right, so real quick, I posted a picture today on social media because of Scott. Last time we were talking about how he would go to the circus driving in Wall after he won on Sunday, and I posted a picture of Scott with my girls and his trophy under the circus sign, and then people commented how they liked the show, and they had some more. Robert Glock, who's a Facebook friend of mine, said when he was leaving Old Bridge, I guess the drag strip, headed back to Long Island, we would stop at the Peter Pank Diner in Sayreville. Now okay. I know the Peter Pank Diner well because with going to the races with both John and Jimmy. And anybody that's ever gone to a tour race with Grandpa Blewett had breakfast at the Peter Pank Diner. Yeah, he didn't care if we were late for the race or what. You're going to breakfast at the Peter Pank Diner, which is now closed. And I heard it's going to be a Wawa.
Yeah, it's closed and knocked down, and supposedly they're building a Wawa on site. But another reason why everybody stopped at the Peter Pank, because I always ask Grandpa, he said the food was very good, but he said they were so quick there. He said they would get your food so quick. It was literally like a 20-minute stop to have a big breakfast. You didn't waste much time there. They were very quick, and they had room. They had a parking lot like I always go back to because even when the Blewett train metals up to the pier, to the barges and to the places they sell their metal to, they would stop there with the tractor trailers filled with the steel, and the metals are running up because they were so quick.
I've had many of ham, egg, and cheese omelets out of there, boy.
Ham, egg, and cheese. Okay.
Well, cheese omelet, I guess that would be.
I did stop there once right before they closed. We were on our way to a monster truck show at Brennan Byrne Arena, by Giant Stadium, and we stopped in there, and that's when we got the news that they were going to close soon, and they did. It was family owned forever by the same family,
You just dated yourself by calling it Brendan Byrne Arena.
Yeah.
It was then Continental, then the Izod. Or no,
I think it was Izod when I was there, but it was getting ready to close that arena because they lost the Nets. The Nets weren't playing basketball there anymore.
Nets, now they've lost the Devils, and
there's really nothing going on there, just concerts and monster truck shows and stuff.
Yeah, I saw Roger Waters' rehearsal show there. Won tickets, which was pretty cool. And 2 days later, I was in the hospital.
And so you were there recently then, huh?
Yeah. May 23rd.
So they're still open for business there?
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. It was a invite-only show. So, they gave us tickets out to radio stations and other stuff like that. So there's probably only about 1,000 people at this, Roger Waters of Pink Floyd show.
Yeah.
So it was really just the floor seats that were utilized. A couple people sat in some of the other, up in the stands a little bit. But, they still do other shows there, but it actually gets a lot of use. And there was an article on this, and don't ask me to post it because I read it a long time ago. They actually use it as a test setup for touring concerts for bands,
Okay.
so they can set up all the equipment and do practice the lighting shows and get everything programmed and figured out, and they can rehearse. And there's no like, oh well, we have to tear this down because there's a basketball game tomorrow night, so they can leave it
So it's
set
like a
up.
school. It's like a school.
Well, not so much for learning, but getting it down. It's a studio almost where they can practice and get everything, get all the lighting cues set up just right for the show before they take the show on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds to me like that building's going to be knocked down in the near future.
Yeah.
Oh,
It'll be a Wawa.
what about Xanadu and the ski thing and oh.
All right, Tim, what's the next one on your list?
Okay, there was a guy, Jimmy Carpenter said he liked the circus too. That was a place that they went to. Wayne Holfish, who used to race street stocks at East Windsor, said that he would go to Mom's Pepper Mill.
Oh yeah, we
And,
talked about that one.
And I got another one on that. That Robert Glock said that. Let me finish his. There's so many here.
Tim's the go-to guy for food, obviously.
He said that even Bob Saul, who I don't know is, and Chris Economaki talked about going to the Peter Pan Diner before and after races. And I got Bob Saul, I don't know, but Chris Economaki, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, Speed Sport, right?
Yeah.
That's coming up, right? The Speed Sport Showcase. I think that's this weekend in Pennsylvania. I have to get the address.
Speed Sport magazine
Yeah,
or
Wayne Holfish, I'm sorry, he said someplace gyms after Windsor, but I don't know where that is.
Nah, I never heard of that one either.
They were at Big Jim's house.
And then Walt, because I'm going to kill this last name, but it's Somolinsky. He used to work for IROC. He was the guy that would always be at Flowtech with the motors.
Okay.
Yeah, called him Uncle Walt. He said he agreed that the circus was the place to go after Wall Stadium, but leaving East Windsor Speedway years ago, he would stop at Mom's Pepper Mill on 33 near Heightstown. We just said that. And
everybody used to stop at this Mom's Pepper Mill. I can't believe it closed down. It seemed like everybody was going to it.
And after leaving Flemington Speedway, he would always go to the Bridgewater Diner just before 22.
Okay.
Yeah, we always
been there.
We always went to the Flemington Family Diner. I think, Scott, when we left there, and that's not there anymore.
What about Olga's?
That was that real famous one, right? Real big one with the bakery in it.
I don't know. I just know it was on. What circle was that at, Scott? You would know.
Oh, I don't know.
Olga's Diner.
Weird New.
Wasn't that over by the Arc? Wasn't that the one in Point Pleasant? Or that was the
No, this is on Route 70, one of the circles.
Yeah, way down there in the middle of nowhere, 7.
Oh, by 206.
Don't talk about my area.
By 206 and all that stuff?
Yeah.
That was a really famous diner. Like, that's sort of like where they said, like, Frank Sinatra ate and all them other people like that ate there. That's a real big diner in the Weird New Jersey magazines.
Yes.
Right.
That is. So the the Speed Sport Showcase is it's 1492 Highway 315 Boulevard in Plains, Pennsylvania. That's coming up the 23rd and 24th, and possibly the 25th. Yeah, just the 23rd and 24th. They also have the Miss Speed Sport Showcase.
There's a couple local girls entered in that. Essence Knots is doing it.
And our own Casey Robichaud is going to be in there.
I don't know if she's doing that one, but
thought she was.
Teresa Collins, factory stock racer, she's doing it. And the 4-cylinder driver.
Oh, and Darian McLaren's going to be in there.
Yeah, we got 3 girls from Wall Stadium going up there to do that pageant. So good luck, girls.
Yeah.
Where's this at?
In Plains, Pennsylvania.
I think out by Scranton. I think that's by Scranton.
This weekend?
It was north of Jim Thorpe.
Yeah. Oh, Jim Thorpe, yeah.
It was north of that.
I'm going to be up that way too racing, but I'm going to be at Grandview racing on the 23rd, so I'm not going to make it up to that show.
Stop by afterwards.
But I really wish those girls luck and I hope they do well.
Yeah, it's great to have people are from Wall representing and going out there and uh, honestly, best of luck, girls, and we'll be rooting for you. Go
Oh,
ahead, Tim.
by the way, we finished ninth at the tour race. I never got to say
Yeah,
where
but
we
you said you were
finished.
going to bring us home a trophy, and they don't give trophies out for ninth.
No, they don't.
uh,
You said I was bringing home a trophy. I never said we were bringing home a trophy.
look, Brian O'Shea just posted. Look, good times. Looking forward to South Boston. So it looks like you're going to have some company out there.
Seems like he's turning into a crew guy rather than a race car driver, which is fine. I mean, if you like crewing's fun on a race team. If you don't have to be a driver to be involved. I mean, look at my brother; he's made a career out of Spot, and for the teams, it's fun being on a crew. It really is. I'm glad Brian's grabbed onto that and he's
And
enjoying that.
if anybody, always says, where should I go for a race? If you want to go on a little trip, I actually got to go down. Our hotel was like right on the beach there. I never knew that Myrtle Beach was that big. There's hotels and
Oh yeah, it's a tourist
yeah,
destination.
it's a cool place to go. Bring your family and stay for the weekend type stuff. And from what a lot of people said, but they did have problems with them because they were restoring. But the flights to that place seem to be cheap for some reason.
Yeah.
You could probably fly down there for $200.
I think it's
All right,
just
Josh.
a
Josh,
vacation
we're getting ready to
destination.
wrap up. Do you want to plug that auction that Jeff
Yes.
Lane's got going on?
Yeah,
Benefit
so
Jeff.
Jeff Lane, who has helped us out tremendously, and basically brings us along and lets us, basically he allows us or gives us a place to do our live shows, and we can't thank him enough. Along with Dan Thomas, don't want to leave him out. So basically, Jeff Lane is trying to help out Jeff Gravatt, and he's auctioning off a car. It says we're going to auction off the complete side of this car, door, quarter panel, sail panel, with all proceeds going to Jeff Gravatt. So please leave your highest bid, and we will end this auction on Friday, March 22nd. So I've shared it on our Facebook page. So please feel free to join in, get yourself a cool piece of memorabilia. And help. It's all going to go to a good cause, helping out our friend and track announcer Jeff Gravatt. He's been incredibly involved. I mean, about as long as Scott's been involved with racing. I mean, his entire
And
life.
just so people know, he had a heart condition. It happened on Thanksgiving weekend, and he had to go. He didn't even make it to circuit. He was rushed to the hospital, and he spent 81 days in the hospital.
He's
So
got
you
me
can
beat.
imagine missing that. Yeah, imagine missing that much of your life plus work and money. I'm sure it put him financially behind like it would anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you can do to help Jeff out, we would really appreciate it.
Yeah, everything, all the proceeds are going to Jeff, and it's just a good cause, and a great way for the racing community to come together and help each other out. So I just think that's a really cool thing. Now, with that said, what have we learned today?
Well, I got one more.
Oh no! Oh my God! Oh. Go ahead, Tim.
And,
I'm sorry.
Like last week, we like local heroes. Like we did Surfside Collision last week, and how which, as a matter of fact, he posted a picture of Nancy's car. And Nancy's car looks pretty cool. I like the way that came out. It almost looks like a stock Monte Carlo SS, but that color's a little different. But it looks cool. And the other one I meant to mention last week and I didn't, is Mike's Performance. That guy does. If you ever follow him on social media, he's like there for the racers, and like Scott said, that's the place you go. And there's always people in there talking, and you get all the gossip in there. And they sell stuff for local people. They can get your oil and all your lubricants and all that other stuff in there, WD-40 and all that. And he helps everybody out a lot. And I just thought we should mention him, that he does a good job.
Matter of fact, I just had one of his customers here not too long ago. He's a bigger guy, and he's just new to racing, and he didn't have time to order a fire suit, and Mike couldn't get it to him in time. It's actually going to be here at Upper First, and the guy wants to race March 30th. Mike went the extra distance and started calling around to try to find him a fire suit he could borrow, and he actually called me because the guy was a bigger guy, and I still have my fire suit from when I was heavier. And the guy actually came here and picked it up, and that was all through Mike. Mike went the extra distance for one of his customers to help him out. And
I thought Nancy used that fire suit.
Nah.
A prime example is when Simpson came out with that retro themed bags and jackets and all that. Alexis had to have one of those bags. Had to have one of those bags. And I called. I couldn't find one. Mike went out of his way and finally found one. And I thought he was going to, I was going to pay an arm and a leg for it because you couldn't get it. And it was actually, he took really good care of me on that. I was very surprised and thankful. So he's there to help you. He's not there to hurt you.
Yeah.
So.
No, honestly, he lives down by me now, maybe 5-10 minutes north of me, and he's just a great guy.
He's also a very honest business guy. There's times he's like, Scott, you know what? If you ordered this out of this catalog, they actually get it cheaper than me. Just go ahead. And when I do that, I feel like I'm cheating on him. He's like, it's okay. You can cheat on me this time. He's like, I can't get that. You'd be better off ordering out of this catalog. He's super honest, man. He's a really great business guy, and he's great to deal with.
Yes,
I like going there when I buy something. It's like Christmas. I'm like, yeah, my son, so and so come in, and there'll be a big pile of boxes. He's like, yeah, it's over there in those boxes somewhere.
You got to dig through it.
Yeah, you got to dig through it to find your box. Like, here it is, here it is.
Yeah, no, he's a good guy.
My big line is when I walk in there, I'm like, anything free today? He's like, nope, nothing free today.
Oh boy.
But there's been many times I had a stack of stuff on the counter and I pay him and then I'll grab something small and he'd be like, don't worry about it, just take it. Like he's so good with his customers. It's unreal.
Yeah, like I said, he's there to help you, not to hurt you. And you might run into Jeff Cravat in there if he's
Jeff Cravat also works there. Doug Moore works there sometimes too on Saturdays. You see Doug Moore in there. He's a great local guy.
I need to know Nomex.
On the fat person side, there's a pizza place right on the corner there by his building. There's pretty good.
And there's a quick check there. My wife and I used to go up just to go to that quick check because they had this banana split hot chocolate that she loved. I don't know. Whatever. That was just a weird.
There's a breakfast place right next to that too. I've never been there, but I heard that's good too.
All right, John. What have we learned? Well, we're talking about food again.
Yeah, Tim, you can go and eat there and then report back to us and let us know. Okay. So yeah, Tim, what have you learned today?
I just heard Uncle Scott doesn't like to talk about food anymore just because he's thin.
Scott, what'd you learn?
Oh, God, what did I learn today? Well, Tim said he didn't eat nothing on the racetrack. I don't believe that one bit.
I know I didn't buy anything at the racetrack.
That I believe.
I had 2 fish sandwiches.
I learned Brian O'Shea is a super crew member now. Backing away from the driving duties.
Who's he crewing for?
Yeah, Timmy Solomito. He was going with Timmy Solomito.
Oh, what they do? Fire Paul Hartwig after Florida?
Yeah, they got rid of Paul Hartwig after New Smyrna and get Brian O'Shea was with them in New Smyrna too. I guess he went to Myrtle Beach with them too.
Sly and Jerry must be desperate on the Flamingo crew, boy. They're hiring all the.
Oh, geez, the drama never ends. All right, today I learned that Tim needs a food sponsor. I learned that if you don't give trophies, you're a cheap ass. I learned that Scott counts his wins. I learned that Scott watches everything or nothing. And I also learned that you only need 3 lug nuts.
That's it.
So with that, we look forward to seeing you guys next week. I'm going to try to get this episode posted as quickly as possible.
But I just want to remind everybody, I am racing this weekend at Grandview. It's an Enduro race.
If you want to go watch Scott win.
Well, there's plenty of other racing there too. I mean, there's the 75 lap big car race, 75 lap 4 cylinders. They have a mechanics race. They have these 4x4s like Jeeps that race around the track. It's a fun day. Plus, they have the blast from the past vintage car club with the old style dirt modifieds and everything. If you're in the area or if you're not in the area, you want to see some racing, come on out. It's March 23rd on Saturday at 1 o'clock. The racing starts. And if it does rain out on March 23rd, they have a Sunday rain date. So we'll definitely get the racing. I looked at the weather. It's supposed to be like 52 degrees and sunny on Saturday.
Oh, that's perfect. That is absolutely
perfect day for racing.
Oh,
perfect.
Gorgeous. All right. Well, that I think we'll wrap it up for this week. Scott, take us out.
All right, go to Wall, and we'll see you next week.
Go to Grandview, then go to Wall.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.